you're going to have a miserable life. Yeah, because it doesn't happen. Yeah, you won't be able to live with anyone else like that because people are human beings. They fall short. So in this kind of scenario, you're upset with somebody else in the family, etc. The first point of action is to have that conversation, and it has to be in a setting where everyone's calm. It can't be at the moment things happen and go wrong, because then everyone's angry, emotional, etc. What's going to happen? You're just going to add fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
So the first point in this conversation is you find a nice, comfortable time where you're both ready to speak about it. And sometimes that takes, some people, it takes days for them to kind of calm down and get over the initial shock and get over that moment of anger, etc. Some people, it takes some time. So understand where people are and then get to that point where you can have that conversation. Then speak your mind, have that conversation without blaming the other person. Say, you know what, I didn't like this when it happened. I didn't feel good when this happened. Talk about yourself and don't use you, so you're not attacking the person. So have that conversation. Now, sometimes it's not the case where it's just rights where this one should have done that and that one should have done that. It could be outside of the family context. It could be business things. Yeah. And this often happens in business partners, unfortunately, in our community.
Miscommunication.
Not only miscommunication, you go into business with someone and you don't detail and write down everything. So whenever you don't write down everything, who's doing what, who's liable for what, etc., then you're just asking for disputes to occur. And unfortunately, this happens a lot. So the more detailed you can be in the contractual obligations of each other, the less likely you are to have disputes. It's very simple. And our deen is about writing things down, being detailed, so that we minimize animosity between ourselves and these types of problems. But unfortunately, a lot of the time, people don't do that. And even with business partners, you want to make things work and get things happening. Be involved with each other, have those conversations. Don't let things lie so that each one's thinking whatever they want, and shaitan comes along and adds mirch masala to it and adds it and makes it bigger and adds fuel to the fire, makes you think that this one's cheating you and the rest of it. So a lot of the times that happens as well. People don't deal with situations and nip them in the bud, and then they just grow and grow and grow, and each one's thinking about it over and over again, and then it becomes, that snowball effect. Yeah. It becomes like the whole of their lives. Yeah. So a few issues to take here. Don't always want every aspect of your right. Be that generous, bigger person, because relationships are more important than money, wealth, and everything else in life.
Yeah, that's a beautiful point you mentioned there. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. We'll go to the next question. It's from Sister Fatima. She says, when does hijab become compulsory?
Okay, now hijab, the Sharia has legislated when a woman reaches the age of puberty. So when she starts with her menses, that point, hijab becomes compulsory. Until that point, then hijab is not compulsory, but saying it's not compulsory doesn't mean that we shouldn't train our young daughters and sisters, etc., to start wearing the hijab. Because you imagine a child's, you're going to wait then, 0 to 100? What? It's not going to happen, is it? So that's why boys, you encourage them at young ages. Girls, you encourage them. All of the obligations, you train them over time. So it would be very naive for someone to think, right, I'm only going to start making my young daughter wear the hijab when she hits puberty, because that's when it becomes fard. Yeah. And we should not allow institutions to tell us, this happens in schools, they say, no, she can't wear hijab because she doesn't have to. It's not an obligation. Mm-hmm. We shouldn't allow people to dictate to us our religion and how we're going to live and our values. Yeah, it might not be obligatory, but this is the time where she needs to wear it, so she's ready and it's a normal thing for her. Like, you go outside, you look presentable to the people outside. Yeah. You don't go outside in your pajamas. Yeah. Right? Although in schools now they have that kind of thing, don't they? But that's not the right way, the etiquette of behaving. So likewise, we need to get our daughters and our young sisters to get used to that. So, in year 3, 4, definitely after 3 and 4 and after that, they should be getting used to the idea of where they wear hijab. It's not enough really. Parents, if you want your daughters to wear hijab, it's not enough that they go to the madrasa, they put it on only in those 2 hours of madrasa, and then they go home. It's not going to happen, is it? Yeah. And then the funny thing is, the laughable thing is, okay, in the madrasa, the whole class is just girls anyway.
With a female teacher.
With a female teacher, so it doesn't make sense, does it? Right? You want to teach them about hijab. Hijab is worn in front of a mixed setting, or outside in public. So that needs to be shown. And the best way to do it, obviously, is to role model. There are always issues with hijab. People are in different places in their deen, etc. But we know parents, mothers, right, wherever you are in your deen, you're taking your children to learn about Islam. Okay, now, if you really want them to learn about Islam, they need to see you live Islam. Because the only way they're going to get Islam, and they're going to ingrain in themselves these values that are going to protect them in their lives and keep them on the straight path and get them into Jannah, is if they see those who they love most in this world live that reality. So you can't pass it over to the madrasa and expect the madrasa to do all of that for you. It's not going to happen.
Absolutely. It's that outsourcing we were talking about earlier, right? Of course. Jazakallah khair. We have a question from Kizr talking about how some people have opinions where they feel maybe uncomfortable, where they feel that, this person is speaking out against scholars, so on and so forth, where they may be not as educated. What's the danger of maybe saying, I don't believe this, he's maybe right or wrong, where you come from a place of maybe being part of the laity?
Okay, now, in terms of how you form an opinion, an Islamic opinion, for someone who's not gone through the traditional Islamic journey of learning, for that person is to identify the scholars who have been identified from the scholars who are before them. Once you've acknowledged and you have come to the reality that this is a scholar of Islam, when you have an Islamic issue, you refer to that trusted scholar of yours whose authority as a scholar, knowledge, that journey, all of that has been ascertained for you, acknowledged, certified by other scholars who have been on that journey. When you have an issue, you go back to that scholar. Google is not one of those, Google doesn't work.
Sheikh, Google is unfortunately
Google, unfortunately, he's not qualified. Right? Sheikh Google lets anyone say whatever they want. Okay, so Sheikh Google is not allowed. So you need to have a reputable mufti that you can go and ask. Once you ask that mufti, the mufti gives you the answer. If you have no Islamic learning and you haven't read about that subject, you won't be able to have a greater conversation than that. It'll just be ask the question, get the answer. For you, in front of Allah, you're excused now. Allah said, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask those who know if you do not know. Ask the scholars if you do not know. You've done that. So in front of Allah, you've got your fatwa for that issue and you practice it. You are free of any blame. Okay. Now, other people, they come and they've read up on an issue and sometimes they're confused. Sometimes anyone who has a bit of waswasa, OCD type thing, stay away from those fatwa online stuff because this is going to do your head in even more and you're going to have more waswas or more OCD than you started with, okay? That's the problem. So that's the first disclaimer. But someone may have read a few things.
Sure.
And then they come across something at work, a discussion happens, and they want further clarification on that issue. They go to their trusted scholar and they say, look, this is the situation. I've read this, I read that, I saw this. give me some advice, give me some clarification. That scholar would then give them more detail. He'll go into it. Maybe he'll set a time aside where he goes through it with them. So that's a different level of person, and it's still laity because the person hasn't gone on that journey. It's just that one issue that's come up.
Sure.
They've been discussing it. They read a few things about it. It doesn't give them that authority of a scholar who's spent their life and knows the structure, the framework of Islam, and how the evidences rack up, and what is priority, what is not priority, what gets precedence, what doesn't.
Yeah.
So the scholar will help you go through that issue, and this is part of learning. So, in a nutshell, follow the truth as far as you can ascertain the truth. Your capacity to ascertain the truth depends on how much you studied of Islam. The more you studied, the more you can delve into the different evidences. And fiqh has differences of opinion. That happened in the past, and it's never going to finish. And that journey doesn't mean you have to do everything in every single aspect of Islam, because you won't have the time, you won't have that capacity. So always have a trusted reference point that is real. Not someone just online and who doesn't care about you. Someone who's real, who's known, who's established in the community, who's been on that journey for a lifetime. They're going to give you more than just any book can give you. They're going to give you the knowledge of Islam with the experience in enacting it.
Amazing. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for that. Maybe we'll come on to dealing with difference of opinion, but we're just heading to a short break. Brothers and sisters, we are heading for a very short break. We will see you on the other side, but I just want to remind you that we're, alhamdulillah, going through all of your questions here so far. So just to remind you, we are on the Facebook page and the YouTube channel as well. So we're live. So leave your questions there so that we can answer them as well. And you can most certainly call into the studio on 0203 515 0757. That's 0203 515 0757, and we'll see you right after this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, welcome back to Ask Eman. I'm your host Ahtisham, and alhamdulillah, we've been having some great discussions today. And we want to continue, Sheikh. Sheikh, there's a question from a mother who says, my son I know is maybe involved in some sort of drugs. He's acting a bit shifty at times, got loads of money and access to money where, you know, he shouldn't really have that much access to money. How do I, as a mother, advise him, bringing on him back to the path, guidance towards Islam and the Deen? How do we tackle such a strange issue, something that rampant in our communities?
Yeah, Allahumma musta'an. Yani, it's a sad state of affairs, but this is the case, you know. You look at some of the major drug dealers, especially up north, and you find, unfortunately, they are Muslims. Okay, they're running the show, and you know they're running the show because trading goes down during Ramadan. They calm down. It's really ridiculous, you know. There's no way anyone with any sense of morality could believe that such a thing, yani, intoxicating people with these types of drugs, the hardcore drugs, which are going to cause the person to become an addict, ruin their lives and kill them even. How could someone with any morality believe that such a thing could be acceptable? And then these are Muslims who ascribe Islam to themselves, or ascribe themselves to Islam. It's so far from being logical or in any way moral that it's so far removed from being Muslim.
In their mind, it's removed from the results or the effects of it, right? They don't see it as killing, they just see it as giving them their fix or that kind of elation of their emotion.
Yeah, this is just the mind's way of justifying a haram that you just going to commit. You don't care this way or the other. And such bad deeds, ruining society, really ruining society, is such a crime that all the other deeds of that person are in jeopardy, because all of that damage you're doing. Allah said it very clearly. إِنَّمَا الْخَمْرُ وَالْمَيْسِرُ وَالْأَزْلَامُ رِجْسٌ مِّنْ عَمَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ. This vile filth from shaitan, that's what they're involved in. Okay, there's no doubt about these things being haram. People who know nothing about Islam, they'll tell you this is all haram. This is all haram. Yeah? And anyone who tries to justify it, I was once in a cash and carry, and one guy was trying to justify alcohol. And these people are normal, average people. Everyone in the shop just said to him, yeah, off you go, mate. Yeah. Everyone knows this is clear cut. You can't intoxicate yourself. This is clear cut haram, known from Islam by necessity. So there's no justification for it whatsoever. Now, the problem is people are so far removed from Islam in their daily lives that they think they can do the ritual acts of Islam, and then the rest of their lives they can do whatever they want and it's somehow fine. This secular mindset, religion is a personal thing and that's it. Yeah. This is what they're practicing.
It's a form of meditation, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. It's just good for your spiritual self, and that's it. That's not Islam. Allah said, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Say, my prayer, my sacrifice, my life and my death, everything is for Allah, Lord of the worlds. With that I've been ordered, and I am the foremost of the believers. Islam is a whole way of life. It governs all spheres of life and arenas. It's a living reality. Now, you can't pick and choose. If you pick and choose, Allah describes those people who picked and choose. In the past, they were Bani Israel. And they are going to be humiliated on the Day of Judgment and thrown into the fire because you don't get to choose. You are not the God. Allah decides what you have to submit to. That's what it means to declare Allah as your Lord. So this child has got caught up in the glitter and glamour of money. That's what it's about for them. And even yesterday there was a brother who's looking for his missing son. Yeah, yesterday I saw the WhatsApp message.
Yes.
He was looking for his missing son. And then another brother mentioned to the brothers who are helping look for him that a lot of the youth do this because they are engaged in selling drugs. So they go off on these trips, selling these drugs, being used by those who are in charge, those who are more senior in the drugs, who don't get their hands dirty, the hierarchy, who are making most of the money out of it. And then they disappear for a few days, then they turn up again. And then this boy, today he turns up. So the mind wonders what this child has been doing, but money has become everything. And therefore you will do anything for it. Again, until we bring back that, no, this life is very short and temporary. You know, in the last few days, 2 of my family members passed away. 2 of them. Reality is that you live a short life. One of them was similar age to me, a few years older. And you go into that environment, this misery and the sorrow, the grief that it brings, death, and then you go to the graveyard. This is the reality of every single individual. Money and wealth and just having luxuries doesn't actually make you happy. It's a trick of shaitan. So really the mother needs to deal with the mindset of the child. And what are you living for? Are you living just to have money, enjoy the pleasures of life? Because every pleasure you think is going to make you happy. Once you've got it, there's no happiness in it anymore. You want the next thing because you think that's going to make you happy. And then you get the next thing and it doesn't make you happy. What actually makes human beings actually happy? Feeling fulfilled. And the greatest of that fulfillment is to have good, lasting, solid relationships. That doesn't happen with those who are involved in drugs. They're always looking over their shoulder. No one's really got their back. They're just using one another to make more money.
That's it.
So that reality needs to be painted. Now, in this, you have certain brothers who went down that lifestyle. They came out of it. Introduce this young child to those people who have lived the life, who can talk that language, and sit and speak to him. You know, there's some famous ones. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention them or not. But look on YouTube. You'll see who they are. You'll see who they are. Get the child to listen to them. See some of those clips. Go down that line of redefining what that child, that young person, is actually living for. And that's a long journey that you have to go through because you're actually realigning the mindset of that child. But there's no quick way to do it.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. We do have a caller, so we'll go straight to the caller. Assalamu alaikum, dear caller. Hello, assalamu alaikum, dear caller. Can you hear me? Hello, Muhammad Ali. No.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Oh, wa alaikum salam. Yes, brother, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, brother, I can hear you.
Yes, what's your question for the Sheikh?
Okay, so my question is it possible to have 2 questions?
Yeah, sure, you can have 2 questions.
Okay, cool. So my first question was, can I read the Quran on my phone without wudu? And my second question was, what is the story behind Khidr alayhi salam? Is he a prophet or was he just a normal man?
Okay, and with regards to your first question, are you talking about reading the Quran in terms of the physical mushaf, the book, or are you talking about it on maybe like a mobile phone or a tablet or something?
No, on a mobile phone, tablet or iPad.
That's fine, no problem. We'll ask that to the Sheikh. Jazakallah khair for your question. Sheikh, the brother has 2 questions. Firstly, if he does not have wudu, can he recite the Quran from a mobile phone? And the second question is Khizr a prophet of Allah or not?
Okay, so in terms of the Quran, touching the Quran, if you're actually touching it, whether it's in a book format or it's on your screen and you're touching it with your hand, then you need to have wudu. Okay. With electronic devices, you can have styluses and all the other stuff, so you don't even have to touch it to move the pages. So in that case, you could read the Quran without wudu, but you can't touch the Quran except in a state of wudu. So this is what the scholars of the madhahib say, so one should stick to it. Now, the other question about Khidr, rahimahullah ta'ala, or radiyallahu anhu, that is a discussion amongst the scholars. Some said he was a prophet, some said he was just a very righteous man, etc. And so therefore those opinions are there from the scholars, and Allah knows best to the reality. A lot of scholars that I learned from and take from, they don't see him as a prophet. They don't count him in the list of prophets. Okay, so from the prophets of the Quran, you don't find him amongst the list of prophets mentioned in the Quran. Okay, so majority go on that side of things. But there are those who said, yes, he was a prophet.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. We have just a few minutes to the end of the show, Sheikh, but I do want to touch upon a very important topic, which is the Barbie film that's out. We had a lot of mothers wondering, should they take their little girls to watch the film? How do they kind of say, look, you know, we shouldn't be partaking in such kind of morality that the film shows, or the materialism that it kind of informs them about. So there's kind of these mixed messages. I know we have about 2.5 minutes until the end, but maybe some closing words, inshallah, from you, Sheikh.
Okay, now this film has been spoken about. There's so many refutations of it. Muslim refutations. I saw one by a sister. I think she's in Australia.
The One Path Network one.
One Path Network one. Yeah, that one. Really good insight about the film. Now, we should look at it as Islam has defined for us a hierarchy for society, has given us roles and responsibilities. Whenever people adhere to those roles and responsibilities, we will have a flourishing society. As soon as we move away from those roles and responsibilities that Allah has ordained for us, we're going to destroy ourselves first and then everything around us. And that's the agenda at play. Allah, how has society, human society, been arranged for the entire journey of the human race? Men are at the top of the hierarchy, then women. Men have the role of providing, defending. That's the structure of society. They have the main realm of decision making. Women look after the family and the home. They give advice to their menfolk. The men get on with things. The women get on with things. They help one another. To put men and women against one another is completely un-Islamic and is going to destroy humanity. Allah said, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتُ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. That believing men and believing women are helpers of one another. They have different roles, yet they help one another for what? يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. They enjoy the good, they forbid the evil, they establish salah, they establish all of what Allah wants them to establish. They have differences and therefore they have different roles. Now, this whole film wants to turn the whole of human society upside down. So how could it ever have any value to it? Now, putting young minds in front of such rubbish, really, you know, such ideology which is completely against the guidance of Allah. Yani, if you do that, you are causing the detriment to your own children. May Allah protect us.
Ameen. Jazakallah khair for that, Sheikh, for being with us, for all your insights and wisdoms that you shared. Brothers and sisters, that brings us to the end of the show. Again, do join us once again on Ask Eman. I've been your host, Ahtisham. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.